Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Property Management 101, and for today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 common mistakes that are made by regional managers. This video will apply best for anyone that's currently a regional manager or aspiring to be one. Now, most of these principles and practices will apply best to the multifamily space, but a lot of these will also translate well and have some crossover to the single family side of the industry as well. And here are the 3 most common mistakes I see that regional managers make. Number 1, lack of training. This is one of the most common mistakes I see that regional managers make, that they have not ensured that their entire teams have been fully trained or have provided a refresher if it's needed. Has the team at all of your sites been fully trained on company practices, policies, good practices, and expectations? Even if it's a situation that you've been assigned a property that maybe has been already under your company's umbrella and that staff has been there for a long period of time, it is still a good expectation to go over with that staff your expectations and standards as their new regional. Too often I see that executives or regional managers, they'll have the mindset if the site is not performing or the individual may be lacking as far as their overall performance or expectation to what that company expects, one of the first mindsets I often hear is maybe they're not the right fit. And I think that's a poor mindset to be asking yourself early on. What you really want to be asking is, has this person been fully trained, or if there are areas that we can maybe review with them or go over a second time to ensure they've really grasped the expectations and policies of our company. One key point when it comes to training as a regional manager, if your company does acquire a property that is maybe performing well, that you keep in mind that entire staff is not used to or aware of or really mastered any of your company's policies or procedures. So it's really important that you do a full deep dive training when you acquire a property that wasn't under your company's umbrella prior. It's really important that they understand your standards as a company, your expectations as a regional, and the overall desired assets strategy. The second most common mistake that I see that regional managers make is that they micromanage. I often see situations where regional managers are very heavily involved in the day-to-day duties that occur at the properties. I'm not implying that there won't be situations and times that as a regional, you're at that site, you're visiting that team, and I'm not suggesting you don't help them out, or if you want to provide an example of the standard or the service you want to give to your clients. I'm not suggesting that's not ever going to be the case, but what I'm suggesting is if it's occurring every single day or every time a certain situation comes up, then it could be the case of where you are micromanaging that employee. If you are a regional manager and you feel that you need to step in on that day-to-day duties of that assets team, then I would question, have you fully trained that team? Does the team fully understand the company's policies and standards? Because if you feel that you would need to step in, then I would question that if they've been fully trained and they're confident in what they've been trained in. The most common dynamic when I see when it comes to a regional micromanaging the team is if the asset is struggling, one of the immediate responses or reactions I see a regional make is they immediately step in and start to help the team perform certain duties. But what the regional manager should be doing and asking is, okay, where can I help train the team in certain areas that we're struggling from a performance aspect? If you're always performing certain duties that that property manager is responsible for, I think the long-term negative impact that it has is the type of message it says and states to that property manager of what you think of their ability to do their job. Also, another thing you got to consider as a regional is what kind of message does that state to the rest of the team if you're always stepping in place of that property manager's duties. It really shows a lack of trust and credibility you have with that team, and that's not the message you really want to be saying to that team that you oversee. As a regional, you really want to make sure that you're coming across and you're trusting your employees and you're allowing and fostering an environment that really promotes innovation and independence. I hope you're enjoying this video so far and you're learning something new. If so, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. And the last most common mistake that I typically see regional managers make is that they visit the sites either too often or not enough. When it comes to site visits, I believe a balance should be there when it comes to how often you're visiting that team. You don't want to have a dynamic where you're visiting too often or not enough, as this really sends the wrong message to that team. If you're visiting a site too often, some of the same mindsets that I mentioned when it comes to micromanaging could also apply here as well, is that you don't trust the team or you don't feel that the team is very credible at their job. Oftentimes when a regional manager goes to a site often, it is due to the underperformance of that asset. And this is something that's very common in the industry. One thing I would always recommend though is if you're having the dynamic of an underperforming asset, what can you do to allow and empower that team to be in a better position to perform at a high level without you being at that asset? This is going to promote a more realistic job that that team will be able to do to consistently meet and exceed that asset's ideal performance. Now, looking at it from the other side of it, if you rarely go to visit a team, then it also could send the wrong message that you undervalue them and undervalue the job that they're doing. Oftentimes this occurs when the property is performing very, very well. I would strongly recommend balancing your visits between sites that are performing and sites that are underperforming. Now, I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't visit a site that's underperforming more often, but what I am saying is there should be a little bit more balance there. It shouldn't be something where 90% of the time you're going out on properties, you're going only to the underperforming properties. There should be a little bit better balance there when it comes to your site visits. One of the questions I would be asking is, what are you doing as a regional manager if you feel that you have to go to a site that's constantly underperforming? What can you do to set up that team so they can perform long-term at that asset? Here are some of the questions I would ask yourself and explore as the regional manager if that is the situation for one of your assets. Does the team feel confident about our pricing and our product? Is the product showing well? Does the property have fair expectations for the market? Does anyone on the team need any additional trainings? How is the team managing their expirations? How is the team managing their prospects? These are some of the things that will lead you as the regional to know where you have opportunities to improve that asset's performance. And for a video recap today, keep in mind as a regional manager these 3 common mistakes that they often make. Number 1, lack of training. If the site is not performing well, usually it's not due to you're hiring the wrong people. Usually it's due to that they've been undertrained. Ensure to put the asset in a better likelihood to perform. Ensure that your entire team is trained. Number 2, micromanage. If you're too heavily involved in the day-to-day, it could send the wrong message to the rest of the staff. And number 3, site visits. Make sure you have a good balance between sites that are performing well and sites that maybe aren't performing as well. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. If so, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. If you've not already watched our updated disclosure and our why we do this video, which is the channel's why, please make sure you're watching those 2 videos before putting any of these practices into place, and I'll post a link to both of those videos in the description. And for industry news, polls, and video releases, please make sure you connect to our LinkedIn and our Instagram page. If you have any questions about this video or any of my videos on this channel, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be happy to address it for you. Happy leasing!